Hello friends, my name is Francesca, I am an Italian knitter and today I have quite a random video for you. We're gonna take a sweater, this one, which I've knit a few months ago, and we're gonna cut it open and make it into a cardigan. Dun 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 dun! There are a couple of reasons why I'd like to do that. This is the sweater. It's called the Novice Sweater by PetiteKnit, and I've knitted up the pattern with like an assortment of yarn that my mom's cousin has donated to me a while back. Even though I intended to wear this around the house, I find myself not wearing it as much as I hoped to. The thing is that in the house, I much prefer wearing cardigans. Because like I would wake up in the morning and like throw a cardigan on, and then you can kind of have it closed or open depending on kind of the temperature and what you're doing. I don't know, I feel like I much prefer the cardigan vibe for being in the house. So I think I would much prefer to have this as a cardigan. We'll see if we're gonna go for a cardigan with or without buttons. The other reason why I'd like to cut this open is because I've always been super interested in steeking. So in the act of making something in the round and then snip it to kind of reveal a cardigan. And that's because I hate purling. So the thought of knitting a cardigan makes me like kind of nauseous a little bit, because you have like beautiful rows of knits, but you also need to kind of come back if you're knitting a cardigan in the classic way, so flat. So I feel like if this experiment is successful and I can kind of create a cardigan out of this sweater, what I can do is maybe in the future create cardigans on purpose with this technique. So actually like knitting in the round, but already with the plan of steeking and create a cardigan. I feel like today what we're doing is more of an afterthought steeking experiment. So that kind of is a little bit different, but I found a good amount of YouTube tutorials which should help me with this project today. So steps that I'm gonna follow. I'm going to fold the collar down and sew it, because I feel like a cardigan with this high neck would not be my preference. I would prefer like a cardigan with like a folded collar this way. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark the center where in the end I'll be cutting. So I will probably take a thread, some sort of scrap yarn and a needle, and kind of run through these stitches with just some yarn just to mark it. And then I would like to do reinforcement by hand. I think I'm gonna follow the back stitching technique to do 2 columns around that center line, and those would be kind of reinforcement. So when I cut, hopefully the sweater doesn't unravel forever and ruin everything. So those kind of 2 columns should keep the fabric in place. I also want to do some sort of button band, so like 2 bands here, and put buttons on those, and then cut open the sweater, which will result in a cardigan. For the button bands, which might or might not have buttons in the end, so they might just be bands and have kind of reveal a more open cardigan style situation. So for those bands, I have yarn that is somewhat similar, so I should be covered. And for buttons, if I end up wanting to add buttons, I have a good amount of inexpensive ones that I got at a store that actually is not a fabric or yarn store. So it was quite a random find. They actually say, I made this on them, or from the bottom of my heart. Cool. Let's start with folding down the collar and sewing it down. We now have a folded collar. This phase I feel like was more time consuming than I was expecting it, but I think it looks very nice. I realized that I've not shown this sweater while wearing it so that you can actually see what the before looks like. So I'm gonna do that. Now we're gonna move on into taking this very stark contrasting yarn and just kind of do a very simple stitching around the mid of the sweater so that I know where to cut it when it actually comes the time to do that. That's the actual exciting part, right? This is the result, and to pick the center, I didn't actually measure. I looked at the sweater and like, it seems like this would be the middle. Oh, you know what I should have done? Just fold it. I should have folded the sweater this way, and that would have been kind of the, I guess we're there, yeah? I'm gonna call it good. Cool. So now I'm gonna go with some yarn and do the reinforcements here on the sides. I think the stitch that I need to use to make it quite stretchy and not tight is the back stitch, where you kind of go up after a couple of stitches and then come back of one stitch, go up by two, go back by one. So you do kind of like loops this way. There are lots of tutorials for this, luckily for me. So I'm just gonna kind of follow what I understood from those tutorials. I don't know if I'm doing it correctly, so I'm gonna go and watch a tutorial now. I watched it last night. Okay, I think I wasn't doing it properly. I think I was kind of spacing my stitches a bit too much. I'm gonna try again now. You cannot even see this reinforcement. Oh yeah, on the wrong side is much clearer. Oh, you can see my mistakes probably here. So the reinforcement is this kind of gray yarn. It seems actually pretty stretchy. My plan here is now to do the same exact thing, but on the other side. So next step is to actually pick up stitches here, just outside these reinforcements that we've done, so that we can then knit the button bands. And now I guess I can pick up stitches and then decide if I want buttons on my bands or not. I feel like I will have them, just because I do have buttons that are fairly inexpensive that I can experiment with, and I'm not very good with button bands in general. I don't have lots of practice, so I feel like this could be a good time to practice a little bit more. So I think we're gonna pick up the stitches and then do the button bands with buttons. I need to figure out how many stitches to pick up. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at the Novice cardigan, which it is the cardigan counterpart of these sweaters. I wrote it down so that I can follow the same guideline. And the other thing I'd like to get as information from my computer is what size needles I've used for the collar and the cuffs, so all the ribbings that already exist on that sweater. I should also use probably the same needle size for the button band. However, looking at my Ravelry, I didn't write any single needle size. I usually go up a needle size for every project that I do because I'm a tight knitter, and so usually I find that I hit gauge if I go just up a needle size. So I think the choices we have are either we pick the exact same needle size that the pattern suggests or a size up. I feel like I want to look at them. Tell me if I've used you for the ribbing. I'm gonna do 10. I mean, does it matter? It does matter, but like, I don't have any other way to go about this than just go with the flow. Okay, so US 10 are the needles I'm gonna be using, and I have the ratio that I'm gonna be following, so I'm gonna try. I decided to do the buttons, so the buttonholes and everything, because I can, and I have the buttons and I have the patience, hopefully. I also wrote down, since I do want to add buttons, guidelines on where to place the buttonholes, so like how many stitches apart, so I'm gonna follow that too. I forgot to say that picking up stitches is my least favorite thing to do in the world. Maybe not in the world, in the knitting world. I have picked up all the stitches I wanted to pick up, I think. So I'm gonna count them so that I can kind of have more or less the same amount of stitches on the other bottom band. And so if they're like widely different, I might have to do something about it, but hopefully they're just like either 1 or 2 stitches difference. That would be good. Okay, this button band that is on the right button band, will have the buttonholes. So I'm gonna do like a few rows of ribbing, and then I'll do yarn overs where I want those buttonholes, and then a few more rows of ribbing, and I will cast off. I finished one button band. This is a little bit weird to look at, I think. It's a sweater with a button band. Ooh, I'll actually show you something. It's not an actual fire, it's a fake fire, but it's still pretty cool looking. By the way, this yarn is all tangly because I had wind up little balls after frogging this yarn from this sweater. I think I had knitted an extra stripe at the bottom and didn't like the look of it, and so I frogged it, but then I kept it in like little balls. Balls were like coming from one sleeve, the other sleeve, the actual body. So I'm glad that after this project that yarn won't be in my life anymore. Working with this specific yarn, which I think is 50% acrylic and 50% wool, wasn't a dream. Still very grateful that I got this yarn and that I can still make like fun projects where I get to learn stuff. Nice to see you again. For me, it's a different day, but the project is the same. I was able to cast off my second band yesterday, and for just a teeny tiny amount, I had to use a different color yarn. It's anyway like a purple yarn, so I think for me, for this project, which is more or less kind of like a scrappy, spontaneous project, for me there's no problem using kind of a slightly different yarn for the cast off. I don't think anyone would ever notice, but even if they do, it doesn't bother me. So we do have the button bands. I'm gonna show you again. One has the buttonholes, as you would expect, and the other one doesn't, because this is where we're gonna sew the buttons. The other step would be to weave in some of these ends, and we also get to finally cut the middle of the sweater. Weaving ends might be my second least favorite thing after picking up stitches. Okay, so I weaved in all the ends. I will now move on to sewing on the buttons. I think I should actually lay flat the garment on the floor and mark where I need the buttons, which is exactly where the buttonholes are, at the same height. If I want you just to look at it and make it work. No, let's do the proper thing. Just because you're watching. Otherwise I would not be doing this. Shh. We have buttons. You cannot see them yet, sorry. There you go. I feel like putting buttons on helped a lot to kind of bring the color scheme together, because my button bands don't match the body of the sweater / cardigan. I feel like they were standing out before. I feel like now with the buttons, they blend in a little better with the color scheme of the pinks and the reds and the browns. Is that true? We'll find out. We'll see when I try it on and everything is done. I was also thinking that sewing on buttons before steeking is not the greatest idea, because if steeking doesn't go well, as in if I don't know, cut something wrong by mistake, or if my reinforcements don't work well and everything unravels, then this will be all for nothing. But oh well, I guess it just means that I believe in myself and in my sweater / cardigan so much that I know the steeking will be perfect. That's it. We can now go ahead and cut. The only thing that I think I need to do after cutting is I'll have to kind of tuck some of the fabric on the inside, and maybe stitch the fabric down on the wrong side. I've seen it in a couple of YouTube tutorials, but I forgot everything about it. So I'm gonna watch them quickly first, and then we're gonna move forward. I need to find a good view for the camera, because I feel like this is the part that we're waiting for. So we need to have a clear visual of what we're doing with the scissors. I did watch the tutorial for the after steeking finishings, and I think I know everything that I need to know, and we're gonna do like a whip stitch. I think that's what it's called, but I'm gonna think about it later. For now, we are gonna cut through. One thing that I've seen in a lot of videos is people putting a piece of cardboard or similar in between kind of the front and the back of the sweater, so that we don't cut through the back accidentally. I think that's a smart idea, and I copied. And we're gonna now cut. Ta-da! Okay. Ooh. Apparently I didn't film it, but I then went ahead and did that famous whip stitching to secure the leftover fabric to the inside of the sweater. I didn't do a neat work in the slightest. However, I think this is what I'm willing to do. I know some people don't even do this. We'll see if it holds up a little bit. Maybe it will help. And if you're wondering why I used like a gray yarn for this, it's because this gray yarn that I have is very grippy. It has some tooth, and I hope it will kind of hold on to the fabric, versus the pink or lilac or other yarns that I have that might match a little bit better are more sleek and slippery. So this will have to do. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same on the other side. As you can tell, this is kind of what we're trying to sew down onto the back of the sweater. Ta-da! We have a cardigan. We have a cardigan. Ta-da! So, I mean, it worked. I'm gonna go ahead and block it just to see if this button band relaxes maybe a little bit. The bottom is okay, but yeah, maybe I can block it. Hi, this is Francesca from the future. I went ahead and sewed the cardigan and blocked it, and the neckline improved quite a lot. Cool. Back to Francesca from the past. We have a cardigan. I think the inside looks okay. No one is gonna see anyway the inside of my cardigan, so no one's gonna know that there's a little bit of a mess here. I'm super interested to see if this will unravel somehow in any place, or if my reinforcements and whip stitching will hold on to the actual sweater, now cardigan. I think I would totally do steeking again. I feel like this afterthought steeking worked out fairly well. So I'm excited to actually do planned steeking, meaning that I would set myself to knit a sweater but already know that I will be steeking. But I think this was a fun experiment. It gave me confidence that I can steek. If I can steek, you can steek. So this is a confidence boost for you as well. And this opens up so many possibilities for me, because I never knit cardigans because of all the purling, and this means that I can knit cardigans. I just need to knit them as sweaters and then make them into cardigans. So many possibilities. Cool. I'll see you next time.